Good evening. I'm David Assad, the Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Fall River at 6 p.m. on Thursday, April 18, 2019. We are meeting at One Government Center in the committee hearing room. This is a meeting of a local public body and as such is subject to the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, commonly known as the Open Meeting Law. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, subsection F, I hereby notify all persons in attendance that this meeting is being recorded with both video and audio devices. Our recording secretary this evening is Brittany Farrier, the lady to my left. She's recording an audio version, and Fall River Government TV, Alex Mello, is recording both the video and audio version. If anyone desires to make an audio, video, or combination recording thereof, please notify me now, and I shall make a public announcement of your intention. Present this evening are permanent members from my left to right: John Frank, Secretary; James Corkin; Attorney Carolyn Morissette, Vice Chair; and alternate members Dan Dupere and David Saber. The gentleman to my immediate right is William Roth, Director of Planning for the City of Fall River. Brittany, have all petitions to be considered been properly advertised and all interested parties notified in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Zoning Board of Appeals and Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48 as amended?
Yes.
I declare the April 18, 2019 regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Fall River open for such business as shall regularly come before it. I remind all persons presenting before the board, including the petitioners, abutters, anyone in support or anyone opposed to the petition, that your presentation should be limited to 3 minutes. Questions and responses must be directed through the chairman. The board's rules and regulations direct the board to specifically look for information which supports the petitioner's claim. As such, the petitioner should identify and factually support the basis for the petition. I hereby advise the petitioners and all interested persons that this board is the Zoning Board of Appeals. This board's authority exists pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, and is limited in scope and deals with the use of land as regulated by Chapter 86 of the ordinances of the City of Fall River. Additional permits, licenses, reviews, and/or approvals may be required for the specific development and/or use which is the subject of the petition before the Zoning Board this evening. The clerks in the building, planning, engineering, and licensing departments are competent in the discharge of their duties as clerks. They are, however, not lawyers and are not competent to give legal advice. The action taken by this board has a real and lasting effect upon the title to your real estate. I urge all petitioners to seek competent legal counsel before filing your petitions and after a decision of the board has been made. For example, there is a city ordinance 2015-11, section 10-1 requiring site plan reviews. A copy of the ordinance is available at the city clerk's office or from the planning department. I remind everyone that the building inspector is the zoning enforcement authority, and you are here this evening because the building inspector has determined that your proposed action is contrary to the City of Fall River zoning ordinances. The newly adopted city charter, section 9-18, mandates that all multiple member bodies develop and adopt rules or policy for public comment. We have adopted such a policy, which in short provides for citizen input on zoning board specific matters at the end of this meeting. A sign-in sheet is on the table in the back of the room. Finally, I disclose that an official copy of the Fall River zoning ordinance is available at the city clerk's office. One cannot rely on the online zoning ordinance. I had taken that out in the past few meetings, and then we recently found that there was some discrepancy, so I caution everyone, go back and get an official version either from the planning department or from the city clerk's office. The board has received a motion to table agenda item number 3 to our May 2019 meeting. We will take agenda item number 3 first. Thereafter, we will proceed with the agenda items in sequence. Are there any questions before we begin? Hearing none, we'll start with agenda item number 3, the motion to, agenda item number 3 is New England Group Management LLC, care of Peter Salino Esquire, 222 Peckham Street, lot F286. The request is for a special permit request to convert the existing commercial use into a seafood distribution facility to load and unload trucks and vehicles for fishing business in an A2 district, lot size 152,656 plus or minus square feet. So what we received from Attorney Salino is I write relative to the above captioned application for special permit, which is presently scheduled for hearing tomorrow, which is tonight, before the Fall River Zoning Board. I respectfully request that this matter be tabled until the May 2019 meeting of your board in order that my client and I be afforded more time to respond to the opposition that has been tendered. I will come to the City Hall after, and provide you with the extension requested fee, thanking you for your cooperation and assistance, Attorney Peter Salino. So that's his request to table it. Now, I know that some of you may be here for that. I don't want to take any evidence until the board decides whether to grant the continuance or tabling this until February, until May of 2019. And if the board says yes, then we'll do that. If the board says no, then we'll go forward. So that's what's before the board. Do I get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could
Peter,
just ask a procedural question?
Yes.
Is there going to be a discussion before the vote so that I have a chance to withdraw if it's not?
The discussion about what? Nothing,
About
nothing
the vote.
nothing of substance. The
No,
vote's
not
only going to
substance.
be of whether or not you should, whether or not the board is thinking of
And so
granting.
based on those thoughts, I may want to withdraw without.
Well, there has to be a motion. There'll be
Right.
discussion on the motion.
Okay.
If you want to jump up and say, wait a
I
minute, I
do,
want to withdraw.
I might.
That may be very astute of you. So, do we have a motion? Does anyone want to make a motion to grant the motion to table it to the May meeting? Okay?
I will make a motion to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay, so having not received a motion to allow the tabling, we now have an oral motion to allow the petitioner to withdraw his petition without prejudice. So that means the case will be off our books, we won't have to act on it, nothing will happen, but without prejudice means that they have the ability to come back before the board, a repetition, start from scratch and start it all over again. So, do I have a motion to allow the withdrawal without prejudice?
I move that we grant leave to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay, we have a motion to grant without prejudice by Jim Corkins. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second, John Frank. Any discussion on that motion? Dan? Carolyn?
No.
Okay, all those in favor? David, you can raise your hand, but you're not voting. It's got to be these five. That's okay. Dan Dupere, Carolyn Morissette, David Assad, John Frank, and Jim Corkins all grant that, yes, it can be withdrawn without prejudice. So for any of you that are here, and I know Councilor Pelletier was here for number 3. So what has happened is the petitioner has asked to remove the petition. It's withdrawn. There's no action going to be taken. Nothing's going to happen. The board has now said that they can withdraw it. They may, in fact, try to come back with a new petition later on, but as far as any action tonight, it's done.
Can I ask questions?
Of course you can.
With that done, does that mean that they can operate there like they have been?
No. This, again, that's the building inspector. Building inspector is the one who would, if they want them to stop, then he needs to issue a cease and desist order.
Okay, well,
The board has no authority, even if this board went forward and denied the petition. The board has no authority to say you have to cease and desist. The only one who can issue that would be the building inspector.
well, I'd like to just to say that, state the facts that, they've been there for a while, and then to try to get more time to talk to the neighbors, I think is ridiculous, because they don't want it. If we can have a show of hands that the people from the neighborhood who are against it, I'd like them to raise their hands. And there's been many problems down there, and I just can't see it. I don't think they should be doing anything with the fish right now. I mean, Mr. Salino wants to drag it on to next month or the month after. I think it's very unfair for the people in the neighborhood to come out tonight and to be notified 3 o'clock yesterday that I want to postpone it to May. It's not fair. They should have been notified, hey, they're gonna postpone it to the 18th. It's not fair to them. So that's all I got to say now. If it comes back, they're certainly gonna come back, and I hope we can put this to rest. It does not belong there. And the hardship could be that he bought it, well, do something else with it. We don't care. So that's the way they stand. Whatever I gotta do, we'll do to make sure the neighborhood is gonna be safe without anything happening there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pelletier. I think your message was delivered quite clearly to Attorney Salino, and he'll relay that to his client.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, for all of you who came out this evening, there's nothing that's going to happen. You're welcome to stay if you want to leave. Thank you. Well, that's fine. We have no authority to do that. Are we ready for number one? Okay, agenda item number one, William McCann, care of Kevin Ainsworth Esquire, 162 Bailey Street, Lot A, 1142. This is a special permit request to build a 28 by 54 detached garage, waiving requirements of the R8 district, lot size 17,840 plus or minus square feet. Good evening, Attorney Ainsworth. Will you identify yourself for the record, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name's Kevin Ainsworth. I'm the attorney for William McCann, who's sitting to my left, who's the owner of 162 Bailey Street, and formerly 152 Bailey Street. My clients owned 162 for a number of years. His mother, there used to be a house next to there, which was 152 Bailey Street, which was owned by his mother. When his mother passed away, he inherited the house. It was too old to rehab, so he had the house knocked down with the intentions of building this garage. It's going to be a post and beam garage built by a company in Pennsylvania. He went for the building permit, and that's when he found out that because of the size of the garage, he needed a special permit. So the purpose of the garage is to store 4 antique cars that he has that presently he's paying rental to store at other places. It'll create the off-street parking. There's no business going to be operated in there. It's strictly going to be a garage with antique cars in it. And that's pretty much what he wants to do. He tore the house down, planning on building the garage at the time, not knowing that because of the size that he would need this. So I'm asking the board to allow him to build a garage and grant that special permit. I did get an email from, I believe, Brittany, saying that it would be subject to site plan review. We understand that. We don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, members of the board?
One story garage.
Yep.
One story, 4,
Post and beam,
I know,
whatever you
post
call
and-
that.
It's really
The construction, but-
three-stall garage.
a 3-stall
It's really a
garage.
3-stall, yeah.
and the dimensions will not be any greater than the 28 by 54.
And that's it.
And the height, you'll meet the height requirement in
Right.
the R8 district.
Right.
Okay. Okay, is there any, yes, Bill, any comments that we should hear?
Yeah, currently, it looks like, it appears that the assessors showed us 2 individual lots.
Right.
So with that, and they're gonna be putting it in, I would, if the board does decide to grant the special permit, I would like a condition that they need to consolidate the lot, either through an 81X perimeter plan or a Form A.
I think they merged already under the zoning.
Correct, I wish to have
No.
the lot lines actually removed and have a perimeter plan or a Form A.
Okay,
Even though it, because it's still, there's still a lot line there,
that's fine.
because they're still legally described that way,
Perimeter plan.
a perimeter plan. The, also require site plan review explicitly, and some of the issues that we saw is there's curb cut along the lot where they're not proposing, it appears they're not proposing to access, to look at removing and replacing that curb and, if need be, fix the sidewalk if there's sidewalk there.
I don't think there's a sidewalk.
No,
there.
but there is a curb cut there, so remove, part of site plan review to look at removing the, looks like there's a curb to the old house, but it looks like they're gonna access everything from the existing driveway.
Right, but I do have gates at that entrance, the one that was there for the old house, I have
So
put a
I guess,
fence
so I
together.
guess the question is, are you going to use them, or can we add some curb and add, if it needs be?
There's no
if it
sign.
needs
I'd
be?
rather leave it the way it is, use, that way I got both access to,
Okay?
Well,
So, no, I understand what you're asking, and I understand what the director of planning is. The board can decide either to say, replace the curb and get rid of one of the curb cuts so you don't have two.
Because one lot typically has one
One
curb
curb
cut
cut.
without a waiver from
Got it.
things. So that's what we want to make it as conforming as possible. They need to consolidate
So
it into
let
one lot. and
me
have one
ask
curb.
you this question, sir. You're going to access the garage from the existing driveway?
Yes.
I'll ask your lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will work. The existing
Right, so-
access would be, I got it.
It's just
I
more
got it.
money and there's not a lot of parking.
I know.
Nobody really parks there anyway.
I drove by, I saw it, yeah. Okay. All right, so that's what we have. Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Can I get a motion to grant with conditions? Can I get a motion to deny?
I move approval, subject to, plan review.
Site plan review, do you want to deal with,
Can we leave that up to site plan?
no,
No?
no,
They don't have
about,
that authority
no,
to-
we can't delegate that to site plan about taking out what the curb or replacing the curb. So if,
No,
we don't have to do it,
I'm
so if you don't
not-
want, so if that, your motion does not include it, keep it the way it is, then keep it the way it is.
No, I can
The lot
add the,
And the lot
consolidation.
the lot consolidation
yeah.
with the perimeter plan.
Right.
And those are your two conditions? Okay. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 5. Unanimous. It's granted with those conditions. Conditions, perimeter, site plan review.
Thank you.
Kevin, agenda item number 2, Fornia, Coelho, and Mello, care of Kevin Ainsworth, 22 and 42 Colville Street, lot L4, lots 4 and 52. Variance request to redivide the lot into 2 lots, waiving requirements in the G district. Lot size is 9,670 plus or minus square feet, and 8,878 plus or minus square feet.
My name's Kevin Ainsworth, still.
Hasn't changed.
Chairman, members of the board. What this is, we're here to fix a 53-year-old title problem. Back in, between 1965 and 1970, his parents bought 22 Colville Street, 42 Colville Street, and the vacant lot behind
Between the two.
42 Colville Street. Since that time, they've always physically treated the vacant lot behind 42 Colville Street as part of 42 Colville Street. And it's fenced in like that, and that's the way it's always been. It's now actually taxed that way by the assessor's office. His parents passed away. He and his brothers and sisters now want to sell 22 and 42. The bank's lawyer ran a title and said, due to the fact that they bought the 22 first, and then the vacant lot.
Yeah, it was the sequence of the acquisition,
Right.
what merged with what.
Right, from 40, that the vacant lot actually merged with 22, even though physically.
It's been used with
Goes
42.
with 42. So they requested.
So let's just put the line and make them.
Fix it the way it is legally. We're not changing anything, we're not building anything, we're not tearing anything down. It's all gonna stay the same. We're just gonna fix a legal problem from 53 years ago.
Okay. Thank you.
And the assessor's office actually shows it,
Yeah, that's because we
This
did,
way.
we did an estate plan deed 6 or 7 years ago as part of an estate plan, and at that time there was no title exam, so we just physically drafted
as
a
what was on
description
it.
to match the physical boundaries of what was there.
so you're gonna be filing a plan?
Well, we're gonna have to do a Form A if the variance is
Okay.
allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, you want a Form A plan, so you have it,
Right.
just how you, yeah. Okay. Members of the board, any questions? Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Can I get a motion to grant? Motion to deny?
Make a motion to grant.
Motion to grant, Carolyn Morissette. Any second? Second, Jim Corkins. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Okay. Petition's granted.
Thank you.
Are we ready? Agenda item number 4, Julian and Marceline Whittinger, 987 Spencer Street, Lot D, 980. Variance request to remove the existing mobile home and to construct a single-family home waiving all requirements in the S district. Lot size, 7,015 square feet.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Dan Aguirre. I'm a senior project manager at SiteTech Engineering with offices here in the city as well as Dartmouth and Marshfield. As the chairman stated, we are here with regards to 987 Spencer Street, which is located at the south side of Spencer Street, easterly of the Paper Street portion of Preston Street, which is not constructed. Parcel D980 exists with 7,015 square feet. The applicants have had the property in their ownership dating back to '77. Since 1965, there has been some type of dwelling on the property. Currently, there is an existing mobile home. The assessor's office has the parcel taxed at $102,700 for a land value, considering it a buildable, single-family lot. Question comes in whether or not this is a pre-existing non-conforming parcel. It is, however, there has been a structure on it, so we couldn't just go directly to the building department and get a building permit meeting whatever setbacks. So this is in an S district, which does require 12,000 square feet and 100 feet of frontage.
So the first waiver you're looking for is area waiver.
Area, technically frontage, because the 122 on Preston, although we could say that it's frontage, it's on an unimproved way, so the real frontage is
It's on
57.
Spencer Street, so waiver of frontage.
Waiver of frontage,
Okay.
and a waiver of side yard, front yard, and rear yard setbacks. Again, very similar to the setbacks that you see in the neighborhood. These homes were all built in this neighborhood prior to it becoming an S district. And I do believe, let me double check, we would most likely exceed the lot coverage requirement as well. This area of Spencer Street does not have sewer, so we're going to have to put in a septic system on this lot. That's why we haven't, although we showed what the dwelling will be, which is down in the bottom left-hand corner, we're not quite sure yet whether it's going to be up front or in back. It's depending upon where we get for soil tests and water table determinations. So if we have a high water table, the septic system will end up being in the front, and the back of the house will be a
But if you
walkout.
had the building envelope,
Yes,
then you can put the house any way you wanted within
that's
that
correct,
envelope.
depending upon, and that's why I haven't shown this house on the
No,
line.
I got it, I just want to make
sure.
sure.
Yeah,
So if we deal with the building envelope,
then that's fine.
then you're all
That's
set.
correct.
The only issue,
The building envelope, though, it's more than 25%.
no, that's
of the lot.
correct.
So
Right,
how much would it be?
but that's why I showed, this is the house that you would be allowing to be built within that envelope.
You're not
Okay.
requesting a waiver to the building coverage requirement?
No, I just said that we most likely would need it by the time we put in a driveway.
Would or would not?
Would.
We
Positive,
would. That's why I had said all the requirements in an S district.
So
That's
are
why I
you-
wanted to enumerate.
So your proposed dwelling, how much would that take up?
Don't ask me to do math in my head, but let's
I
say.
mean, is it
let-
like more
let's say
than
that-
half of the building envelope, less than it?
Let's say that footprint, I don't know, is 1,200 square feet maybe?
30 by 30 plus.
30 by
deck.
34. 30 by 30 would be 900, so 30 by 34, little jog in the front, walkways, driveways. So let's say if we were at, I don't know, let's say 2,000 square feet, 2,000 divided by 7,000, whatever percentage that gives you to. Nobody else wants to do the math in their head either.
We'll do it.
I'd rather have it more accurate.
But I mean,
It's less than
essentially,
30%.
Less than 30? Yeah.
so it's less than half of the building envelope you've shown? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, easily, yeah.
Okay.
Again, the only purpose for the building envelope being shown is because I don't know where the septic system is going to go yet.
I see. Okay.
So the house is either gonna be pushed all the way up towards Spencer, 10 feet off, or it's gonna be pushed all the way back to Notre Dame, and the septic system will go in front, one or the other. No, but there is water.
There's,
There is
there's
public
water on Spencer, but there's no
Yeah,
sewer.
there's no sewage.
Some of the neighbors have still have wells.
Right, so we have to make sure that we can meet all the
The two.
setbacks to that with Title V, so that's the same thing. If there's a well directly across the street on Spencer, then the septic system will have to go in the back.
He's got
So
it on his legend.
they don't wanna spend the money doing those things yet until we know if we can even,
I can tell you
No,
there
you
is a
didn't
well
have
right
that.
across the street.
is there, okay?
Yes, there is.
So then most likely the system would go in the back.
Right. Just a bunch of cemetery, so it's.
Right, but just elevation wise, because if the system gets raised, you can get benefit getting a walkout basement in the back. Opposite way around, if you have to fill the backyard and raise the house, now you've got a front yard that's raised.
Based on that.
Yes. If the front yard, the 15-foot front yard is a concern, if we kicked it back another 10, kept it with 25, would you still put it within that building envelope? Because cemetery, the
And hold
rear
the front
yard, the rear
25?
yard I'm not excited about.
Yeah, I mean,
The side yards I'm not that excited, but the front
Well-
yard, if you had the 25-foot, then
live
it's
with
kind
it.
of in conformity with everything else that's in the area.
we could live with it.
And based on your numbers, that's like 28%.
28%.
I look on the backside in that when a variance is granted, and I look at it through site plan review with the building, and he goes, well, waived all standards,
Right,
they can do 100% lot coverage, and
correct.
I don't believe that would be the intention.
No, that's not what
I
we're gonna
would-
do, we'll have, if
No,
we grant it,
what the
we'll be
intention is
specific.
for them to approve what's shown on the plan, not to.
Or they could say, you know, no
with a
more than
cap.
30%
Exactly.
lot
Yes,
coverage.
Exactly.
Which would be 5% over, which would be a little bit greater than what you wanted.
Let me do the math myself before I commit to something.
Yeah, no, do the math, make,
I-
I don't want you
I
coming
would-
back, make sure that you've got it if we're going to grant it, if we're gonna deny it, then it just stays what it
Yeah,
is.
and Dan, my recommendation to the board is to be very specific, because I have inherited a lot of these old variances with the building commissioner, and we do site plan review, and
Sure.
we're not 100% sure.
I
That's why we're
understand.
looking at, you know, you could conform to the front yard setback. The other setbacks, as I said, they're not, you know, the rear yard's a cemetery. I would prefer a specific number for lot coverage.
So while Dan's doing the math, any
Sorry,
other
I
questions? No, no,
apologize.
you do the math, do your math, I mean, I should have done it myself before we got here, what I thought, but, any other questions about this development? Dan?
No, but like I said, my only concern was where the septic was gonna go.
Yeah,
because-
but that's gonna be a Board of Health issue,
Yeah.
I mean, that's beyond our scope, but,
I-
yeah, Jim?
No.
Oh.
And that's the reason why you wanted the excessive building envelope.
Right, because I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we would be.
Dan, 10 by 12 deck in the back? I won't talk.
Yes, well, a deck's not considered impervious, but
No, but in terms of.
it has to meet the setback.
But in that's what I'm saying,
Yes.
so if we use, if you've got 30 and if we make it 40,
Well, now he's trying to figure out.
30% lot coverage would cover us for driveway and building.
That's what I was
And
thinking.
so not greater than 30%
Correct.
lot coverage. Okay. And the proposed house, 34, what did we say? 30,
Well, I would think that you wouldn't even need to stipulate it. It's 30% lot coverage between driveway and house.
Driveway and house, exactly.
We can do that through site plan.
And I've
review.
calculated a driveway that's a little bit longer, just in case, depending upon.
All the
how
way to the
septic
back.
system goes.
but I want to make sure the deck, I don't want you coming back and saying
Deck's
the
not
deck.
considered impervious.
No, but it
12 by
would be,
12.
if it goes into the rear yard.
No, it's not going to go
So
closer than
that's
that
my,
15.
I don't want the
Yeah.
deck to be an issue that you're coming
No.
back, so.
No.
If your calculations are
The deck
correct,
will,
then that's what
the
it's
deck
gonna
will
be.
have, any structure has to meet that rear yard of
Okay.
15.
Okay, you got it. Yeah, okay. So let's see. Members of the board, any other questions? Is there anyone here in favor of this?
No, we're not in favor. I put my hands up.
So, anyone here in favor? No. Anyone here opposed? Matt, so this is what I'll do. I'll work my way back. Madam, you can have the first
Okay.
word. And then you'll be the last word. She'll be the first, you'll be the last.
Okay, I have a letter. I'm one of the abutters.
I need your name, please.
I'm Susan Bath, 1011 Spencer. I'm really the only abutter.
Can you spell your last?
BATT.
B-A-T-T, thank you.
I have a letter here that I've sent to my insurance company, and I also sent it to the owners, the present owners.
Yes.
Because I've had damage to my property twice in the last 4 years because of trees, which I requested that they take down. So, should anything happen with the new owner, I would assume that lot is so small, they're gonna cut down every tree. I want them to cut down the tree that's caused me damage to my property twice, because my insurance company will not pay me another claim. And when that tree falls, the next time, it will fall on my house rather than structures in my
You
yard.
could condition that all trees come down, I don't know specific location of.
Well, now I get into the Conservation Commission and the board, the tree board that wants me to plant trees.
This is zoning.
Listen to me,
Not the
I
tree
got,
commission.
no. I understand it's zoning, and you took the words out of my mouth as this young lady's talking to me about trees. But the simple, and I'm looking at the distance from this lot to the house, it's gotta be an awfully big tree that's gonna, but anyway.
Yes, it is. We got big oaks down there. And then my other concern.
But do you want all, I mean, I'm a little concerned
No,
about
the
putting
one
a condition
tree,
of
the tree
all.
The tree that's damaged my property twice is a big V tree, and the first incident was half of it, and I asked the owner to take it down because I was concerned about it falling, and then 4 years later, the other side of that tree.
So the removal
A
of
hazardous tree.
hazardous
Yes,
tree,
You got it.
and that being done, you're okay.
Yes, also, but one other thing.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
close is their house gonna be to my boundary? On that picture there, he's got like 10 feet.
That's, the side yard would be 10 feet, that's
Yeah.
correct.
What is it supposed to be?
15.
15 feet.
Okay. And then also, where are they putting the septic? Because there's a well across
That's
the
what we're
street.
talking about, we don't know, but that's why he wanted the building envelope, so he can shift the house around.
I just don't want this monster house on this little lot.
I don't think they're gonna put a monster house. I mean, if you look at the dimension of the house that they're proposing, it's 30 by 30.
Well, that'd be 2 levels though, right?
It's gonna be
I-
one
I-
story.
Yeah.
Again,
It would be just-
zoning board, I'm not in the architectural control what they wanna put, but the footprint that they're showing for the house is 30 by 30 with a rear deck. And the rear deck is gonna be towards the Notre Dame Cemetery. I think that's how it's gonna be situated with the frontage on Spencer Street.
And you're gonna
Now, wait, let me see if Miss
Okay, I'm done,
Brad is done.
And I'll give you this letter so you have it,
You
because
can
this
give me
did-
the letter, we'll make it part of the record.
Because it did go to my insurance company and to the owner.
All right, so the owner, Dan, do you know about it? If you
No.
don't know, we'll give you a,
Yeah, and
So-
I sent certified mail to Mark because the father had passed away.
Yeah, well,
So I've
everything that I've been
dealt
doing
with
is through the
father
power of
and-
attorney, John
okay,
Coughlin.
so we'll
So
make
as long
this
as you
part of
have
the
that.
record if you need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done, madam?
Yes.
Okay, sir. No, wait a minute. I told you you could have the last word. If he wants to speak, I'm on.
That's my husband.
Oh, so he doesn't have anything to say?
He has no word.
Madam, you've got the floor, madam. It's all yours.
I get the floor
You
now?
do, it's all yours.
Thank
You effectively told your husband to sit there and be quiet.
My name is Ruth Farias.
Yes.
Farias, and that's my husband, Stephen Farias. We live and have owned 988 Spencer Street, Fall River, Mass. since 1986. Our property is
Across the
northeast
street.
of the 987 Spencer Street property, and at this time, as you already spoken, that there's no sewage in the area. We have a well, and we've had the well since 1986 when we moved down there. We have never hooked up to city water because our water is perfect, okay? We measured the well to the cement boundary that they have in front of their house, and it's only 82 feet. The people at 986 Spencer Street, theirs is only 72 feet from that cement boundary, okay? It's right where the sidewalk is.
Yes?
It's the curbstone, and there's the cement, and that's where their well is, at 986. I know it's in my understanding that there's some kind of septic system in the backyard of that building, okay? I don't know what kind it is, I have no idea. And I know they have a well, and I don't even know if it's a hand-dug well or an artesian well. It's got a big cover on it, it's been there for years, okay? My concern is wherever they put this septic system in, what's gonna happen to my well? Who's gonna take care of my well if it fails? That's a big expense to hook up to city water. We never hooked up to city water because we love our well water. I can turn on that faucet and drink that water, and I don't have the taste of chlorine in my mouth, okay? And that's what you get when you drink Fall River water. So I wanna know who's gonna be responsible, who's gonna, if my well fails, okay, because the septic system fails. Everything runs down from the Notre Dame Cemetery down to us, okay? We've had issues with excavation this past 5 or 6 years, digging in there. We had to get a cease and desist order. Me and this young lady, Ann Dupree, she lives a few houses down, she borders the cemetery. Excavation where her floor in her garage is all cracked. And they're actually pounding, and it was unbelievable. So they finally got a cease and desist order, and they're supposed to be seeding and planting grass in there, okay? So I had my well
Wait,
water.
not in her garage.
Excuse me, the floor cracked
I
from
know,
all
they're
the
not they're not planting seeds. They're not
No, they're supposed to be planting seed in the cemetery, not supposed to be
Oh,
digging
oh,
anymore.
okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry,
I got it, I
didn't
got it.
explain myself right. Okay, these excavations were done for years, okay, and we finally found out that they didn't even have a permit to do it, okay, the cemetery didn't have a permit to do it. So, my husband and I, we had the well tested last fall, okay, to make sure it was okay, because I like my well water, like I told you. If you guys have ever had well water, it's the best, okay? So we had to test it and it passed, okay? There's no contaminants, thank God, in it. So, we know that the lot is undersized. It's very undersized. It's only 7,000 square feet, a little over. Usually it's supposed to be 12,000. It's so congested down there as it is. We want to keep the zoning as is if possible, so we don't have so much congestion down there. That street is a dead end. Shannon Street is at the end of it. We had an issue last fall. We had an oak tree come down. It hit the telephone pole and blocked the street. For almost 2 days, nobody could get out.
The same tree that Ms. Brett's
No.
complaining about?
No, this is another, no, this is
Different
another one.
tree.
This was at the corner of Preston, the telephone pole came down the corner of Preston and Spencer Street.
Okay.
And we could not get out for almost 2 days. It was around Halloween, okay? It is very congested, it is getting congested down there. There's no more buildable lots except for the lot that's next door to us. My husband and I bought that lot next door. This is 1010. So we could have a larger area instead of this, because the lots are all narrow. They're like 57 feet wide.
57.5 was the...
Yeah, it's not a very wide lot.
No, but that's what everybody on the street has.
Yeah.
And that's what this one has.
Yeah, they're very narrow. So we
Okay.
like to keep it that way. That 7,000 square foot lot is so tiny. They're gonna have to use Preston Street, that paper street, to drive their automobiles in. There's parking in the street, actually, if you go down Spencer Street and where Preston Street starts, it narrows up, okay? So it's gonna be parking on both sides. Most people today have 2 and 3 cars, so that's another concern. And another concern is that if they're building this house, having this house built, and they're gonna sell it, I wanna make sure that we don't have what happened on the top of Spencer Street where they brought in, and I have no qualms and nothing against people that need a home to live. They bring in a halfway house or a group home, and that's what they did on Spencer Street around, I think it's number 250. Okay, they did that. They brought in a group home.
I wish I had all the power that you think we have.
I wish you did, believe me, because,
We know you do.
But I hear your concerns, and I think the rest of the board members hear it.
I've lived in Fall River all my life. I have a letter here. Do you want a copy of it?
I'll be happy to take the letters. Is something different than what you said?
No, basically, it's just.
All right, so we're gonna make it part of the record.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so those are my concerns, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I just ask one thing? I hate to go out of line. I want to know how you're putting a driveway on that property
Yeah, I don't
and a
understand
house.
ways.
I don't even know how you can.
All right, so we're gonna have the engineer answer how he's
Yeah.
going to do that, or what, because the board hasn't decided yet, but he's
Right.
talking about a driveway, so Dan, if you can tell them how the driveway is going, we'll go in.
I'll go through a few of the comments. First of all, regarding the well, which is the most important issue to deal with. The Board of Health, Title V regulations, Mass General Law requires
going to
that a
determine
well
where-
is 100 feet away from any subsurface sewage disposal system. So any septic system that we build, because this is considered a new construction, will have to be 100 feet away from everyone's wells. This property
Do you
will be.
get that? Did everybody hear that?
That's a requirement.
No, I know, I just want to make sure that they hear that. Go ahead,
We
Bill.
will be tying into town water, to the city water.
City water.
100%. Driveways, we will be providing 2 off-street parking spaces as required under the zoning bylaw. The driveway will most likely come off of Spencer Street. Again, just about every other house out here is 57.5 feet wide.
Yeah, no, that's.
So, yes, although it doesn't meet the 12,000 square foot area requirement, we're dealing with the same narrowness up and down this street and in the vicinity of this area. Currently, there's a mobile home on that property. If I lived in the neighborhood, I wouldn't want to see a mobile home stay there, or a new mobile home come in, and people come in and
I'll
move
let
into
you
a mobile
speak, sir.
home. Because that can happen, and will happen if they don't build a single-family home here. So we can remove the mobile home, build a modestly sized, single-family home, Title V compliant septic system, tie into public water, 2 off-street parking spaces so that they won't be impeding Spencer Street, so they have no problem
Cut down the
with
hazardous
access.
tree.
Cut down whatever, just about every tree would need to be cut down on this lot.
I was gonna ask the question, the tree that fell, was that on this property too, also?
No, it was
No, it was on the corner of Chris-
Across the street,
The
okay. No,
north-
because I was gonna say, if it was on this property, we'll tell them to cut that one down too. Go ahead.
So I think in general, that answers the questions that they
Okay.
raised, you know, with the technicality of the wells. When
No,
again, the
no, I
well
got
is the
it.
most
No,
important
but
thing.
the Board of Health, and I was going to give the speech about
Yeah.
this board as a zoning board, and the Board of Health
Yeah.
is the one who's going to regulate where the septic system.
Well, you do at the beginning,
And
too.
site plan.
Yeah.
I know, but let me reiterate,
Yeah.
because, so those are how those issues, this board, if we grant the petition, would be, yes, you can build a house. There are other reviews and other boards that they have to go before they can actually build a house. So they have to comply with those, with the other regulations. The very narrow issue before this board is, you've got this singular lot, you're getting, mobile home is going away, a new house is coming up. You've heard some of the comments from the board members, more particularly me, about the front yard. I really would like it bigger than that, but we talk about having a building envelope and situating the house within there, and making sure the septic system is away from all the wells, and tying in to the city water so they're not drinking well water. And I think the general consensus is, if you have, well,
We wouldn't be able to get
you
away from our
you
own
enjoy your artesian well water.
Me too, me
Thanks.
too.
Yeah.
So that's where we are with it. Sir, you would like to speak?
No, as far as the trailer, like you were saying,
Yeah.
I don't think they could be granted another trailer on that property.
Listen, that's not before the board, and I'm not going to engage in whether or not they can or they can't. They want to get rid of the trailer and put a house in, that's what's before the board.
That's what I was told by the original owner.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else opposed? Because we went through, nobody was in favor, opposition. Members of the board, what do you want? Bill, is there anything that I should know or the board should hear from you on this particular issue?
Should the board decide they want to approve this, I would request that they be specific that it's a variance to the lot size, which is the 7,000 to lot size, a variance for the side yard of 10 feet, a variance for the rear yard of 15 feet, a maximum lot coverage variance to 30%, require site plan review, 2 off-street parking spaces, remove the mobile home prior to the building permit, and removal of the hazardous tree. I think I've
Did you
covered
say,
everything.
did you say front yard? Because I want.
I did not
25
say front yard. I don't feel that they should be granted the front yard variance.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it
Right.
should go back to 25.
Correct.
Correct, okay. I just wanted to make sure we had
Right.
that. So those are the things that we should consider. We also received a letter from the engineering department, signed by J.R. Frey. And it says, number 4, engineering recommends conditioning the variance to require site plan review. So that's what we've got before the board. What motion to grant with those specific conditions, motion to deny?
I would make a motion to grant those specific conditions.
Motion to grant with those specific provisions.
For the front yard to be
In the front yard to
25.
remain 25 feet, 15-yard rear yard, 10-yard side yard, 2 off-street parking spaces, site plan review,
30
remove,
no more than 30%.
no more than 30% coverage, and removal of the hazardous tree, and tie into the city water.
And removal of the mobile home.
and removal of the motorhome before the building permit is issued for the house.
That's fine.
So those are the conditions, and that's Carolyn's motion. Yeah, you got all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have it, Brittany.
Do we have a second on that motion? Second, John Frank. All those in favor? Any okay, Dan, yes? Okay. So that petition is granted with those conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They
Thank you
still
for
have to
coming
go to
out.
the-
We need your input in the neighborhoods when things are going on. That's not just addressed to you, that's everyone. Thank you. This is mine, this is yours.
Are there two letters?
The other one, she's got the two letters, she took them already. Agenda item number 5, Mason's Drywall, Plaster and Stucco, Inc., 0 Ledge Street, Lot K22, 110, variance request to continue the use of a vehicle/equipment storage yard in an S district, lot size 12,500 plus or minus square feet.
You fixed your aerial, so
I
it doesn't...
did. Well, I fixed the legend where you can, where there's no- I figured it out. See, I'm not that technically savvy. Good evening again for the record, Dan Aguirre from SciTech
Do they
Engineering.
have them down there?
Here this evening on behalf of the property owner, Mason's Drywall, Plaster, and Stucco, Inc. And as you see on the signature page, Donald Dupers Jr. is the manager of that corporation. This is with regards to real estate listed as 0 Ledge Street, map K22, lot 110, which is on the easterly end of the dead-end portion of Ledge, which comes off of Norwood. This piece of land is actually wedged in between the area of Norwood and then Talbot Middle School, as you can see on the aerial photos. So we have a 12,500 square foot parcel with 125 feet of frontage, perfectly conforming lot.
Perfectly
in an
conforming S district lot.
Ledge Street is called Ledge Street for a reason. There are no utilities, sewer and water that come up to the front of this lot. That's why the lot has not been built on for single-family home purposes up to this point. Currently on the site, there are a number of vehicles, a couple of storage containers, and a gravel storage area. I've given you a package of photos, and I gave all of them out, but I think the very last sheet would be the furthest back in time, which is 2005. And as you go forward looking at the dates, you can get a historic view of how this property has been used over time. And in our application, we actually...
Can I ask the question, because I couldn't find
Sure.
any permits or any licenses?
No, there are none. That's just how the property has been used. This is not, I didn't say it was a permitted use.
Excuse me. Let him speak, let him do his presentation. You'll all have an opportunity to talk. Go ahead.
So dating back quite a few years,
So I wasn't missing anything when I was
No,
looking
no.
for that, okay.
the activity that's going on this property has been non-conforming, non-permitted, 100%. That's why we're here seeking...
No, that's,
a variance.
I just couldn't, as doing the research, I just couldn't figure it out. Go ahead.
So the property has been used in this manner of storing this type of equipment. First, the owner had rented this property. It's actually his father that owns the property, I believe at 93, which is directly west of the property. So at first, they used to rent the property, and then for about 8 years, he has been storing his construction vehicles, just like you see in the photo.
Yeah.
Then in 2017, he ended up purchasing the property, and subsequent, just after that, apparently someone had complained after the purchase to the building department, then he had gotten a letter saying, hey, you need to cease what you're doing out there and go apply for a variance. So that's what brings us here to you today. And again, I only wanted to give you the photos just so that you knew that this was something that's been going on, not just recently, but that it has happened for a while. Without issue, without problem, from what my understanding is. So we're here today asking you to allow that use to
That use to
continue,
continue.
just as it has been going on for the last 8 years. And most notably because the lot is technically unbuildable due to the soil conditions that are present on that site and in Ledge Street as well. So the purpose for what the lot was intended for as a single-family home, because of the soil conditions on the property, don't lend itself to that type of development. So I believe, is Mr. Jupers here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did
So
you-
if you have any specific questions about what he does there, so he's not running a business out of the location.
All his comments.
It's strictly just a storage area for equipment, some staging, and things of that nature. Well, that's all. If you have any specific questions regarding the use, Mr. Dupers can either answer it, or I'll do my best to do as well.
So,
How is the soil condition on that parcel different than the parcel right in front of it?
They were able to install enough sewerage in Norwood Street, enough to get it up just to that one spot. I've done some work in that area, and I've talked to the sewer department in that area, coming down to, remember we had done a lot on Concord, which is 1 or 2 down. This whole area, and probably why the school was built on that area, because it was land that was difficult to construct on. There is a very high presence of ledge and a difficulty of running sewer and water to it.
Is sewer run to 93?
No,
He can answer it better than I can.
it's a well septic.
well, and septic
Actually,
on
the-
top is, on
I'm sorry.
ledge. Okay.
Well, what happens is sometimes, way back when, you didn't have a choice, and if they had find a small enough area to put in one little cesspool, that would
Yeah, no, I'm
suffice. You
just,
probably would have get away
asking,
with it
so
today.
you've got some development that happened on K 22-104.
Absolutely, yes, there's a garage and a very small single-family home.
This is it. How come? I'm looking on the abutters list and I'm trying to find out who has 93.
My father.
Does he live there?
Yes. If I can re-answer that question, there's a septic,
104.
Yep.
city water.
104, right here, Dave, right in the middle, top center, on the
Yeah,
abutters list.
104. So, but 201 Friendship Street is the,
Well, that's where he lives, but he owns.
oh no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Does the father live, who lives at 93?
He lives there, his property is a business, is 201 Friendship Street.
Say that again, please.
He lives
He
here,
lives
but
at
his
93
mailing
Norwood.
address.
Oh, he
is
lives
a
there, but
business
his
at
mailing
201.
address is at 201 Friendship Street? Okay. Yeah.
And he's been using that as storage. vehicle
You're
storage.
Donald Jr.?
Correct,
And Crystal
been
is your,
using-
and Crystal's your wife?
correct.
And you live Fisher Road in Dartmouth? Okay.
I made this that he's been using that for the same purpose
No, I know.
for the last 25 or 22 years,
He's been using it.
for the same purpose.
Yeah, okay.
Storage, truck storage, junk cars, scrap metal.
Okay, thank you.
Why don't you explain to them exactly what you want to do with it? And
Well,
and
what
that
I've
difference-
been
Once-
doing
Dan,
for the
what's-
last 9 years is
Come on
vehicle
down.
storage.
Come on, sit down here. And just explain what you want to do with it.
So my name's
Cleaner
Donald-
than what's with it.
Donald J. Dupras Jr. My father's Donald Dupras at 93 Norwood. His business at 201 Friendship Street, Fall River. He's been there for 40 years. He's lived at 93 Norwood for about 22 years, 25. I've been storing my vehicles, my scaffold, trucks that I plow and do snow removal for Fall River for the last 9 years. Since recently, like 3 months ago, I got a complaint that, I've been using it commercially. And
Now, you're in an S district, a single-family
Correct.
residential district?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's what brought me here.
Well, he knows that now.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. All right, I understand. So that, you just want to continue the same usage?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, all my employees are from Fall River. We pick up, we drop off, all our storage, everything, it's been here. And I just want to continue the use.
Got it. Okay. Let's see who's in favor and who's opposed to this. unless the board has any questions before we go that route. Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Okay. Counselor Long, I'm gonna give you the last, you can have the last word or the first word, whatever you. All right, so I'm gonna start on this side of the room, I'll start in the back and work my way across, and whoever wants to speak, I'll recognize you, sir, with the baseball. No? Sir?
I'm speaking on behalf of him.
Okay, will you identify yourself, please, and tell us?
Yep. Letter, can I read the letter?
Who you can do? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. My name is, dear Chairman Assad and members of the board, my name is Debbie Sardina, and my parents, Tiago and Maria Medeiros, have asked me to speak on their behalf tonight.
They're direct abutters.
Direct abutters.
Correct.
Yes. My father and mother own property at 40 Melrose Street, which is one of two
Yep.
properties that directly abuts the parcel at 0 Ledge Street,
Yes.
owned by Mason's Drywall. The Ledge Street property is also abutted by the city of Fall River, specifically Talbot Middle School. We are here tonight to object to the application for a variance regarding the property. This application requests that the owners to, quote, continue the use of a vehicle / storage yard in the S district. The application should not be for the continued use because the use was never allowed in the first place. This is an illegal and inappropriate use of the land against current zoning standards. Within the last few years, the land was cleared away, a fence was erected, gravel was brought in, all without permission from the planning board or input from neighbors. As the appeal states, Mason Drywall is a company operating out of Dartmouth, Massachusetts, owned by Donald Dupress Jr. I assure you that the intensity of the proposed use is not minimal on the neighborhood. If you are not familiar with the area, Ledge Street is only accessible via Norwood Street, a two-way, dead-end street with parking allowed on both sides. Norwood Street is also a major street used by parents and faculty of Talbot Middle School. As you can imagine, it can get very congested, especially during arrival and dismissal times. Large commercial vehicles were not meant for this neighborhood, zoned S for the single-family district. We strongly disagree with Mr. Dupress when he stated in his appeal that the proposed use would not derogate from the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. Mr. Dupress further states in his application that he has been using this land in this manner for approximately 8 years. While we will agree that the clearing of the land took place many years ago, the increased presence of the commercial trucks and storage containers have gradually arrived on property within the last 1 to 2 years, or since the property was owned in 2017. This past winter, some of these trucks, specifically the Sanders, were operating at all day and night. My father and mother can recall one night during a snowstorm, the beeping of the trucks coming in and out lasted hours upon hours. We are here today because the city's Director of Inspectional Services has already denied Mr. Dupress the continued use of this property for commercial purposes. It's an eyesore to the neighborhood. 4 large storage containers, at least 5 commercial trucks, there's a cherry picker, other vehicles that just sit in the lot. The use of this parcel is causing a reduction in property values, is a danger to children who not only live in that neighborhood, but also attend school there as well. Several years ago, this land was filled with salvage vehicles, which the city ordered cleared away. We ask that once again, the city make the owner be in compliance with the ordinance. We strongly urge you to deny this appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Hi, my name is Steve Sahadi. I'm not a direct abutter, but I live on Melrose Street. And I would wish that you'd look into it a little further before you make a decision. I had looked to purchase that property about 10 or 12 years ago.
You're here opposed to this petition?
Yes.
Okay.
It has a jaded past, but I went to check the records at City Hall about like water and this and that. They were tapping into the house in front of it. That's why I backed away from it. That started out, I don't want to spread rumors, like a coop or something, or a shack. And eventually, they turned it into a home. This is going back like in the 50s or the 60s. So when I looked into it in the 90s to purchase it, because it was going up for auction, when I did my homework, I backed away from it. And for them to say that that's been an existing business for many, many years, it has slowly just grew and grew and grew. And that land was not all open like that. Those trees have been cut down and a lot of land has been cleared. A little at a time, just keep pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back. So I would respect that you either look into it a little further or allow me to go down to the city and find out.
Well, you're free to go to the city, do anything you want to do.
Okay. I just want to make my
That's fine.
my decision known. that, like I said, when I looked to purchase it, it was nowhere near, the lot size was nowhere near that magnitude of clearing. It was just a little shack in the woods.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Madam?
Um,
Wait, the lady behind you. You're with Mr. Tiago, right? Okay. Matt, yes, please, identify yourself and tell us what you'd like to
My
know.
name is Karen Souza. I had submitted a letter.
Karen Souza,
with
we've got a letter
photos.
from you.
Okay.
I believe.
Do you want me to read it? Do you-
You also have photos. Yes, yep, they
Yep.
have my pictures. Yep.
We got, yes, I've got your letter. Do you want me to read the letter, or would you like to speak? It's up to you.
I'm a little nervous.
All right,
Would
so,
you mind?
I don't mind, I
Thank
don't
you.
mind.
You
So,
have a nice voice.
so let me read,
Yeah,
Karen
I have a
Souza,
nice voice.
so let me read your letter into the record.
Thank you.
It's dated April 17, 2019. Dear Fall River Zoning Board of Appeals, my name is Karen Souza. I reside at 60 Melrose Street, Fall River. I am a lifelong Fall River resident and recently retired Fall River teacher. I am here tonight because the north side of my property abuts the property at 0 Ledge Street. I am here because I strongly oppose the variance request before you tonight. I purchased my single-family house in 1995 in a neighborhood that was and still is zoned S, single-family district. I have used the residence as my only home for nearly 24 years. When I purchased my single-family home, the lot behind me was wooded. 3 years later, the property was sold and the new owner cleared the trees and removed many large underground boulders. I thought he was preparing to build a house, but instead he started storing unregistered salvage cars. He was using it as storage for his business. The city was notified and he was ordered to remove the vehicles because the lot is zoned S, single-family district. He was not allowed to operate a business or store unregistered vehicles on the property. Over the years, there have been some vehicles and a motorhome kept in the lot. Perhaps my neighbor and I should have complained. Maybe we are guilty of being too nice. Maybe if we had complained, we wouldn't be here today. But it never looked like it does now. I recently learned that the property had been divided and the section behind my house is now owned by a Dartmouth business. No longer a backyard, its new purpose is as a vehicle equipment storage yard. The new owner, Mason's Drywall, Plaster and Stucco, Inc., purchased a single-family zoned lot to operate a business. He was also aware that the previous owner, his father, could not run a car salvage yard on the lot. Though he knew of the zoning restrictions, he made no attempt to obtain a variance before the purchase. It is only now, after he was caught violating zoning laws, that he has requested a variance. Major changes started last summer. The property was covered with a black tar-like material. Large metal storage containers, work trucks, metal buildings, supplies, and equipment were brought in. A bucket truck and the bucket locked in an upward position is also stored in the single-family backyard. Trucks drive out in the morning and return at the end of the workday. I have found beer cans and nip bottles in my yard along the wooded fence line. This never happened when the property was owned by the homeowner who previously owned the land. It is clearly a business. The property also abuts the Talbot Middle School. The lot owned by Mason's Drywall, Plaster and Stucco, Inc. is not fully fenced, leaving students in grades 6 through 8 access to the potentially dangerous vehicles and equipment. Norwood Street, the only access road to 0 Ledge Street, is a dead end. It is used daily by parents driving their children to and from Talbot. The street is narrow with parking on both sides. It is a residential street not suitable for a business. And so we are here tonight to entertain a variance request. I am here making my own request. Please do not allow my backyard to abut a storage yard that is not only illegal but an eyesore. Please deny tonight's variance request so that I can open my blinds on the north side of my house again and see a yard rather than a large work vehicle and equipment, large metal storage containers, and a raised bucket truck when I look out my windows. Please make Mason Drywall and Plaster Stucco, Inc. of Dartmouth store its vehicles and equipment on land that is zoned for business use. Please do not let this out-of-town business profit while our property values plummet. Please uphold the Fall River zoning regulations and protect my right to live in the residential neighborhood I invested in 24 years ago. I have attached pictures that show the view from the back of my house. I have also attached an aerial view that I printed from the City of Fall River's website. My property is numbered 60. The lot in question once part of 93 is directly behind my house. You can see from the picture that the lot was previously grass and dirt with a few stored vehicles. The lot to the east of the Talbot Middle School parking lot. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Karen L. Souza, 60 Melrose Street, Fall River, Mass. 02723. And it's stamped received April 17, 2019. Do all of you have, does the board have pictures? Or?
Yes.
Okay. So, was that an adequate job of reading your concerns?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody on this front row here? No? Helen? Councilor Long, it's all yours.
I'm just here to support my constituents that come from that neighborhood who contacted me concerned about the request for the variance. And also, I have sent you a letter, I hope you'll have a copy.
I did. Would you like me to read you?
And I will read it.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting me comment.
Well, you need to.
Look, as a city councilor and former neighborhood resident, I lived right around the corner
I know,
from this my whole life.
I got it.
Actually, when you go down to the Fall River Middle School, if you're going down, you look up to the left, there is a place that we used to play when it was Father Smith's Park, and it's actually called The Ledge. And it's just a big bunch of rocks, one big giant rock. And you can walk all the way up, and you can get all the way to the back of Norwood Street. We used to play there all the time, so very, very familiar with the area. I wish to express my opposition to the request for Mason Drywall for a variance to operate a commercial entity at 0 Ledge Street, Fall River, Mass. Mason Drywall, operated by Mr. Donald Dupress, is a company located in Dartmouth, Mass. While I have no evidence to the contrary and do not express any opinion to the integrity of this company, allowing this variance will most certainly negatively impact this neighborhood. The Norwood Melrose Ledge Street single-family residential neighborhood has existed since my earliest memories. I was born and raised at 109 Barry Street, and I had many friends that lived in this neighborhood, which was right around the corner from my childhood home. This was a family and child-friendly neighborhood and remains that today. I remember Father Smith's Park, which was taken for building of a new middle school, which it now sits on. While Mr. Duper states that the property has been used in a commercial manner for the past 8 years, the residents have enjoyed the quiet enjoyment of their property for much longer. 8 years of operating in direct opposition to ordinances, building, zoning codes in the city of Fall River is no excuse to now grant this variance. This neighborhood is zoned for a single-family residential use, even though there are many multifamily units in the neighborhood. I would assume this was done as to limit increasing the density of the neighborhood. Allowing this variance would be in direct opposition to the intelligence of our past leaders in zoning and would allow a commercial enterprise where none has ever existed, severely impacting the residents and surrounding neighborhoods. In closing, I would express my sincere appreciation for your deliberation and again request your denial of this appeal.
Thank you, Councilor Long.
Thank you.
Anyone on this side? I just kind of ignored you all. Okay. Dan, nothing else. Okay.
Oh, should I say something?
Yes, if you'd like to,
In
before we
response
start.
to anything, or?
You got Dan here, but that's okay.
Yeah,
You can
no
respond. Go
problem.
ahead.
By all
Answer.
means,
Well, as we can hear, I've heard several things contradict from one person to another. There's never, ever been day-to-day operations in the morning or at night, except for in the winter. Snow removal, salting, sanding, which we haven't done in 2 years. The asphalt grindings that just got brought in November, I can show you the receipts. It was 4 or 5 trucks, 20 yards, maybe 100 yards of asphalt. All of my employees are from Fall River. I grew up in Fall River, was born in Fall River. I went to school in Fall River. The minimum amount of traffic or exposure to anybody's property could be very minimal to a house depreciation. The 93 Norwood, the water, the chicken coop, that's a water easement. It goes through another piece of property, so do your research. Yeah, that's about all I have to say,
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's the petition. We've listened to the opposition. This is, well, Bill, is there anything you want to say?
No, I just had a lot of questions about was use ever, a lot of the questions I have
No,
been
been
answered in one way or another.
No, but this piece, this lot, perfectly conforming, lot in an S district. Commercial use is not allowed. Storage units are not allowed at all in the city of Fall River. There's been this activity going on, and I guess we've confirmed that there's been no licenses or any permits granted. So the question now becomes, if we go back to what the requirements are for a variance under section 10 of chapter 48, it talks about specifically finds that the board has to find, if we want to grant a variance, that owing to circumstances relating to the soil conditions, and we've heard lots about the ledge, shape or topography of the land, or structures and especially affecting such land instructions, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance or bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner or appellant, and that the desired relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of such ordinance or bylaw. So, as Councilor Long said, and as we all know, this is a single-family residential district. We've got single-family houses. We've got a use that's taking place there that is contrary to the local zoning ordinance. And if we think that it's not impacting, then maybe we can consider it. If we think it is impacting the neighborhood, even though there may be some soil condition which raises to the level of a variance component, we have to decide whether or not to grant or deny. So that's what's before the board. So can I get a motion to grant with conditions? Can I get a motion to deny?
Make a motion to deny.
Motion to deny, Carolyn Morissette. Do I have a second? Second, Jim Corkins. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. So we've got Carolyn, Assad, Frank, Corkins, and Dupere. Petition's denied. Thank you. That petition was denied. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. Let me give you this back.
I dropped it off yesterday.
What letter? Oh,
My letter?
I didn't see it. Let me see.
I had 2 copies, so probably.
Oh, that's, yeah, you can have mine, thank you.
You know what, I just grabbed both.
Was that it? You've got it all. Okay. Agenda item number, all right. All right. Can we take it outside, and then I'll start with agenda item number 7. Thank you. 6? I thought I just did 6. I'm sorry. Helen, I'm ahead of myself. Agenda item number 6, Sherwood Education LLC, 250 Snell Street, Lot I, 23, 29, and 30. Variance request to construct 6 residential townhouse-style units in the A2 district, waiving minimum lot coverage requirements. Lot size 20,371 plus or minus square feet.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Dan Aguirre of SciTech Engineering, here this evening on behalf of Sherwood Education LLC, who is the property owner of Parcel 1, known as 250 Snell Street. There may be some confusion regarding this parcel, or the actual plan that was submitted. We're not asking to subdivide anything. This parcel has been created. Again, 20,000 square foot plus parcel.
20,371.
I don't have my glasses on.
Well, make sure you get the, because of the calculations,
I
get us there.
So, this is in an A2 district with requirements of 100 feet of frontage, 10,000 square feet for the first unit, 2,000 square feet for each additional unit after that. Building setbacks of 30 feet in the front, 20 feet in the side, 30 feet in the rear, with a maximum lot coverage of 30%. So, the petition before you, the applicant was originally going to build a single building, 6-unit, 3 or 4 floors high apartment building with a singular parking lot. And we would have been able to do that in 100% compliance with the bylaw. After speaking with some of the neighborhood groups, the owner of the parcel and who is the developer wanted to switch gears and build 2-unit townhouse-style buildings with garages for 2 spaces underneath of the building. This parcel has some topography relief from west to east that allows us to build a driveway and be able to park underneath on this parcel. So the only relief that we're seeking tonight is an increase in the lot coverage of an increase of 8% to get to 38%. Everything else, the lot size is correct, setbacks meet all the setbacks, actually exceed them in some forms or fashion.
In all respects, it's
The
just a
density
waiver
of 6 units, so it's strictly an increase in lot coverage. Excuse me. And lot coverage is normally a function in zoning. Some zoning districts have lot coverage requirements in Fall River and some don't. So sometimes you question, well, why is that? Well, we try and create green space, and we try and create a situation where we're not creating all these impervious surfaces so that stormwater runs off of the site. What we do now have in Fall River, which is a good thing, is we have site plan review. And in that process, what the city has been required is that all roof runoff, which is considered clean under the eyes of stormwater management, they usually require us to infiltrate that into the ground. So that kind of mitigates or offsets any type of lot coverage situation. So even though you're covering something, and you would think that that water is now not making it into the ground, well, over the last 3 years, Fall River is requiring us to put it into the ground with roof drain systems, little infiltration systems. So although we're asking for an increase in lot coverage, we would be required, I am sure, and it could be a condition of this approval, to recharge the runoff that is gonna be collected on any of this roof system. And also through that site plan review process, there'll be a landscaping review, and you'll see that's just schematically the color drawing that I gave you, what we would end up doing on the property. This is currently the location of what St. Peter and Paul Rectory is, and then there's a little garage off to the side of it. Argosy Charter School, who took over St. Peter and Paul School, which I am an alum of a long time ago, needs parcel number 2 for some additional parking and a gymnasium. And so that's what limited us to creating a lot that, although it meets the requirements for 6 units, because we exceed the 20,000 square feet that's required, the lot coverage, by spreading these buildings out in order to get garages underneath, kind of makes our project larger, but at the end of the day, I think it makes a better project, that we're not creating one building, 6 units in one building, a singular parking lot, out close to Snell Street. So now we've got a longer driveway, but it gives us the ability to break up buildings, have a little bit of green space in between them, a walkway, connecting each of the buildings, and off-street parking inside garage spaces so that we wouldn't have vehicles parked outside, so that water is now hitting cars, hitting pavement, and creating a greater stormwater situation than when we have vehicles that are stored in garage spaces. So that's all. The only relief we're seeking is that increase in lot coverage.
Parcel, this unit, this parcel was created by a Form A?
That's correct.
So, really, you're only short 1,600 square feet. So if you could have taken, so tell me about the existing 3-family dwelling that shows up. That's gonna be raised?
That's the rectory, yes.
Is it gone already, or is it?
No. Prior to either of these lots ultimately being conveyed,
Yes.
that has to go away. But right now, the building still sits.
Okay, so.
And the reason behind, again, we created a lot big enough for the 6 units, because Argosy needed.
So if you could steal 8 feet from parcel number 2, and it goes
Right, I
back
was just gonna
200
get to
feet,
that.
it's all.
But going back a year, Argosy needed the biggest parcel possible. And the owner who would be retaining this parcel, Sherwood LLC, again, initially was going to build a singular building, maybe 3 or 4 stories high, which I believe in the A2 where I think we're bound by 60 feet, and creating just a parking lot. So we would have had a square of a building, multi-stories, and then just a parking lot in front of it. And we could have met the 30% requirement. By spreading these buildings out into 2-unit buildings, making them townhouse style with garages, we now have to create a longer driveway to access those buildings, because it's not just all tucked up next to Snell Street with parking. We would need 12 parking spaces, which we could easily do in a very small area out near Snell, creating a smaller impervious surface. So for the benefit of the neighborhood, to get this type of housing and not a larger, I grew up in a tenement home, but in some of this area there are a lot of 6 to 8 to 10 unit buildings. And I think there's enough of that in that neighborhood, and I think the neighborhood thinks that. And that's what's pushed us in the direction of building 2-unit buildings.
The space in between the buildings, is it 8 foot
Yes.
wide? Is that green, is that green?
That's green, yes.
So we're now getting rid of some impervious, and we're getting some,
Well, what it does, it gets rid of one big block of mass and spreads it out into different pods, but
Yeah,
you
no, I
have
got
to
it, I
get
got
from
it.
pod to pod. And that forces the increase in impervious cover.
okay. Bill, is there anything that either we or the audience should hear from you on this particular project? The singular issue is coverage.
If the board was to look at approving it, I would request that specifically require site plan review. 2 parking spaces is per code, but I would say to raise the building and remove the parking lot. I think is the
No, the parking lot's on a different
parking lot's on the
parcel.
other one.
So they'll be coming in with their
To remove
own.
the garage and
The 3-family.
the 3-family, because it crosses the property line.
Right.
That would condition prior to.
And site plan review will address any of the drainage issues.
Yes, well, not only will address the infiltration for the thing, but it'll also address dealing with the drainage for the driveway
The
and
driveways,
impervious
yeah.
coverage.
Could you address the issue raised by the city's water department about the fact that that street was just recapped?
Let me read the
I haven't seen
engineering.
it, but,
You want me to read it? So item 6, this is from the engineering division. Engineering recommends conditioning the variance to require site plan review, so we've talked about that. Engineering is providing notice to owners that Snell Street was repaved in 2017, making it a moratorium street, which requires city council approval for road opening permits until 2022. Pavement repair requirements in a moratorium street may include curb-to-curb mill and overlay beginning 10 feet beyond the limit of disturbance for any utility or driveway opening requirements, or other requirements determined at the discretion of the city engineer and city council. So, I guess I've made the disclosure, you've listened to it.
yeah, just
I'm
like,
sure that you know about it.
just like any other permit that we need from another agency, because zoning
No,
allows
it's
us to do
outside,
something.
it's outside of our scope, but
Right,
it,
we
let's
can
make
tie
the
it to Tecumseh
disclosure.
Street for water if we needed to.
So
but-
let me see who's
yeah.
here in favor or opposed to this petition. Is anyone here in favor of this petition? Helen Rego, will you please tell us why you're in favor of this petition?
They did a very good job with the school, and I think I think it will be an asset for the neighborhood.
Are you here in your individual capacity or as the neighborhood spokeswoman?
As a residential, as a homeowner,
Yes?
and as a neighborhood leader,
Okay. For the Niagara neighborhood?
Niagara neighborhood.
Thank you, Helen. Is there anyone else in favor of this petition? Okay. Well, members of the board, that's what we've got before us, a singular, oh. What did I
Anyone
say?
opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry. I asked for who was in favor, who's opposed. Thank you, yes. Identify yourself.
289 Manchester Street.
I'm sorry, sir.
James Levesque.
James Levesque.
289 Manchester Street, direct
Yes.
abutters of the school. I'm coming, I didn't understand what exactly, exactly where the site was located based on the stuff, and I had questions, as you brought up. You need to know what's going on in the neighborhood.
You do. You need to be
Yeah,
active.
but
Ask Helen.
So the same day that it came in the paper, it came into the Argosy School, which is in the process of expanding to a large, high school of 350 students with, staff. We're talking about 400 near adult to adult people. And also that they're gonna build a gym, it said in the paper. So I did further research, which I guess they didn't need a zoning for, that this gym is actually, it says a 25,000 square foot expansion costing $2 million. It's on their website is what they're building. I assume that they have permission to do this already, or that this is being done so that, this is in coordination, what's going on with this site. I don't know if they've done site work on behind the school.
The school isn't before the board, but let me, just give me 30 seconds.
They've already got approval for it, they're announcing it.
Has nothing to do with this application.
It's got nothing to do with the application, but I just want to get some, just
It's what's going
something
on in
that
the
is.
neighborhood.
No, I understand, and it's
Yeah.
important that you're here, but what's before the board does not include that the school, and I think the school, under the A2 district, that's a permitted use.
And that's what I'm assuming, that they were permitted to, do this. They've done site work,
Yeah,
I've
lot
seen on the
coverage.
site.
I'm not doing the engineering.
No, I got it.
I don't know, I still don't have a clear picture of where the site is that they're talking about. I'm assuming it's.
Wait, this particular petition?
Yeah.
All right, this petition, we will be happy to show you where this one is. The school is not before the board, and we have no control over what's going on there.
I'm talking about the adjacent property though, and also so this is where they're planning to
Yes,
build
this is
the thing,
the
okay.
rectangle.
Do you know if they're planning to build the gymnasium on this property, or if they're
Yes.
planning to build it behind the school? It's on that
From what I
property?
understand, on that part.
Is there any way to verify that, or? Because I mean, it makes a big difference
It's all
to me.
school
Where they put it and into the neighborhood. This is where they run the buses now, and they block this street in the morning and at night. This is a parking lot, and they're using a parking lot behind the school. My house is right over here. And if they're building it behind the school, that's a big issue, for me. I thought they were going to use the whole lot for this, because there's a great deal of parking involved, there's pickup, drop-off, and just staff, that are going to be there. I'm not saying I'm opposed to this project in particular, I just don't know what's actually going on.
But this project, sir,
It's just this.
it's just these units.
It's where the garage sits now on the side of the.
I understand that, but I'm just trying to get a picture of the congestion level based on, this is a
You
huge
may want
drop-off.
to, you may want to talk to you can't, there's a thing called the Dover Amendment, you cannot unreasonably regulate churches, schools, there's a whole mess of.
There had to be some reason why they
there's a
were able
whole
to do
mess
it.
of different
No, but also
things.
under our ordinance, in
And
the
under our
A2
ordinance,
district,
it's
the school
allowed.
allows, it's allowed there.
But I mean,
You
that's,
can't unreasonably regulate it.
Helen, is this your
This
neighborhood?
is my
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not only that, he's talking about the buses, but when it was St. Peter and Paul schools, we had the cars stopping there.
No, so what I want to do is make the connection
You got
that
the cars
Niagara
now, the buses
neighborhood
too, yeah.
is an active neighborhood. Helen Rigo is one of the,
yeah, well aware,
You know,
yeah.
so
I mean, but
she's-
I don't know if they're aware of what they're doing.
You need to talk to I has not come through my office. It's some debate whether site plan review is required under the Dover Amendment. I think it's not an unreasonable regulation. So you need to, I would recommend that you talk to the building commissioner.
Well, I'm just saying in relation to this project, is how I see it. It looks, I mean, from what I was able to gather, this is a 20,000 square foot building, and
In
they were
relation
talking
to this
about a
project?
25,000 square foot expansion. They didn't call it as an addition, they said it was an expansion. So if it's there, I'm really happy. If it's over here.
I have seen that
and they're
talk
gonna
that
sell
they are
this again.
considering adding classrooms to the back.
And they've done drilling all through in here, and they've done drilling in here, and they've
I've
also done
seen
drilling on this
plans
side.
that they're proposing on doing some classrooms back here, and I have not seen any plans
That's
on
not
this.
on, that's
So they're
not on
talking
this
a
lot.
gym, a gymnasium,
That's
and
not on this lot, that's nothing to do
Well,
with
this
it.
has nothing to do with it.
All right, just
well,
want to.
just for the, the neighborhood, the congestion and the, where they're planning to.
Okay.
Regarding the
that's
school,
my-
I would recommend you talk to the building commissioner
Yeah.
to see if he has any
So
preliminary plans.
but there's no way we can, before we make any comment about what's going on there, that we would know what's happening, is what you're saying. Or if they're gonna save, if they build only one lot, if they're gonna save the other lot for parking, or, there's no,
Yeah, this is an independent
Yeah,
lot
I
that's
understand that, but
separately
right
owned
now-
that we're here tonight.
Yep, I understand that, I understand
The
that.
potential expansion here and the gym and parking here, I recommend that you contact the school to see if they have any plans.
They've announced
I
that.
do know that the engineer has shown some conceptual plans of some classroom additions here, and they've said, and a gym over here. We haven't seen any formal plans.
Yeah.
I recommend you contact the school to see what their concept plans are that they're proposing to submit to the
So
board.
let me say this, if this proposal goes through, you're going to have at least 6 new neighbors there that are gonna be impacted by this, so you may wanna coordinate with them and say, I'm either in favor or opposed, or be a vocal voice, or.
Well, I mean, I am
join Niagara.
opposed to that, I expect it to be much worse, based on what's gonna happen with the school. But that's an extremely sloped lot that's on. And I'm sure, I'm surprised there's nobody here complaining from these houses. This is a vacant lot where the house burned down and the child died several years ago. That, I think was up for sale. But, no, I just wish that they would be able, as making a decision based on that, if we knew more about what the school was planning. But, if I had known, I thought that maybe you would know what was going on with the.
As far as a
With the
detriment to the
site.
neighborhood.
You know, and plus, because I mean, that neighbor, that's blocked off, you know, and then they're not a good neighbor. Argosy School is not a good neighbor. Hell, when I live there, they don't cut the grass in the summer. They leave stuff all over the place. They have flashy lights going on in the summer. They're not a good neighbor. They've never once contacted us. They never had any communication with us. They're, you watch their website, it says they're laser focused on school, which is true,
I know,
but they have no peripheral vision whatsoever. They have no concept of who's around them or.
He's on the other side of the
Yeah, I
school.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
but it's not, this isn't, my recollection as I did my research on this isn't, the
You know,
school,
I
the
just- it
school
just-
isn't selling this, they're not doing this.
No,
The
this is,
school,
no.
this is Sherwood.
But when it was bought,
Educational
I didn't see any division of the property, and when it was bought the two parcels together. But I didn't see that division in any of the records that I looked at. It just, they had one sale price for the two, you know, for the two lots, the rectory and the school. So I assumed it was still one entity. That's why I was mostly concerned. But if it's already been divided,
It's,
you know, and that's.
this has been divided and under a different owner.
You know, then that's a different story, you know, than what, I was hoping that if they, before they made a decision, they would leave some place for parking or green space or something that would make
Rather see
it.
this and have 6 foot.
Oh, yeah,
separate
I agree with that, Helen, I do, but I'm just saying, you know, I don't know, we're talking about a major development in the neighborhood with that many people and that much use of the school for a very long period of time, and I just was concerned about what that looked like and what was going on with it, so.
We have 9 city councilors, we have a mayor, we have neighborhood outreach people, those are the, I think that's who you have, the
Okay,
building
like I
inspector.
just saw this.
The zoning board has a very limited item before us this evening.
Yeah, I understand that now.
And I
hear you.
appreciate, no, but thank you for coming out, and I appreciate your input. Alex Mello's got it on tape, so lots of people are gonna be listening and maybe be no, I'm saying, it's a very powerful tool, so maybe you're making, some of the people who couldn't come out tonight will be listening to you. So, is there anyone else opposed to this petition? Okay? Well, members of the board, you've listened to what the petition is. It's a singular waiver of lot coverage, and that's it on this particular project.
Conditional plan.
Site plan
review.
Removal of the house,
Oh,
raising.
The garage and the house.
The garage and the
And
house
the-
prior to the building permit. And so that's your motion with those conditions, okay? Do I have a second? Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Okay, that petition's granted with those conditions. Thank you. This is yours. Okay, now we can get to agenda item number 7. Gonzalez Real Estate Investment LLC, 835 North Main Street, 01014. A variance request to expand the existing commercial structure and parking facility on a conforming parcel of land in the BL district, lot size 9,043 plus or minus square feet.
I'm gonna give you guys some revised plans as well.
I think we have them.
Small, you want them regular full size? I brought them.
Okay.
That one's going away. This is wrong. Well, not wrong, we just changed it.
This is the old Del Lemonade site.
Exactly, yep, and you look on the photo. Again, for the record, Dan Aguirre of SciTech Engineering, here this evening on behalf of Gonzalez Real Estate Investments LLC. Mr. Louis Gonzalez is here this evening. I think you're all familiar with who he is and the great work that he's done in the city. At multiple locations with Sheer Genius salon and barbershop products, as well as juice cafes and a few different other items. I've just handed out to you a revised plan, but let me give you a little bit of history of where we're at and how we got here. In March of 17, the board granted a variance for Mr. Gonzalez to construct again, don't ask me to do the math, a 34 by 77 square foot building. If you want to do the math. It was basically 2.5 times the size of the existing structure on the property. Due to the topography on the site, and that was part of the ground for granting the variance in the first place, the construction of that became insurmountable, and it wasn't an endeavor that Mr. Gonzalez could invest in on this small of a piece of parcel of land with what could come out of it. So it's been a year or two. We had started the site plan review process based on the old design. He pulled that back, sat on it. The 17 variance expired, of course. And then just recently, again, circled the wagons and came up with a new proposal. And that's what you saw was the initial plan that we had submitted, which was a substantial size addition to the existing structure. Kind of forced us out in a few different areas, brought us very close to Lincoln Avenue, the same 5 feet variance that you had granted previously. And then, actually, Mr. Gonzalez went on vacation, came back, and the day or two after that he came back to me and said, "Dan," I said, "I think we're gonna shrink this down even more so." So what we're here this evening for is asking for permission to construct a 21 by 21 foot addition to the south side of the existing structure. So we would not be going any further towards Lincoln, we would not be going any further towards Barnaby, no further towards North Main, and we're holding the same 5 foot offset line that you had granted in the previous application, where in the BL district, 10 feet is required. What this proposal will do, and if you look at the aerial photo that I gave you, in front of the building now is pretty much an entirely paved area. Behind the building, there is another accessible paved area where, although it doesn't meet every parking requirement that the city has, it does afford some space that some employees can park up there and be out of the way for the day. And actually, there are vehicles that use that area now as well, either in the neighborhood or businesses that are across the street. So part of this proposal, and again, going through site plan review, we will be adding, similarly as how we did on the last application, some landscape buffers around the perimeter of the site in between North Main Street and our site. This would afford us the ability to create 7 parking spaces in a new parking lot with berms, handicap spaces, hatched out handicapped area, screen dumpster pad. Again, in the rear of the building, we'll be utilizing that area. We can get 4 employee spaces up in the rear of that building. That gives us a total of 11 spaces that we can use on the site. And the planner had asked me about a week or so ago to look at it with regards to the zoning, so that, to see if we really, last time we had just waived, again, past practice has been just to get a blanket variance to allow you to do whatever's shown on the plan. Excuse me. Now the board is moving in the direction of granting specific variances to specific sections of zoning. So when I went back and I looked at what the parking requirements were for restaurants, which is 1 space for every 4 seats. Again, this is a very small, it's the Juiced Cafe, similar to one that they have down on Slade, Plymouth Avenue, which, you know, there's some takeout stuff, but there are a few window seats with stools, so he's planning on having about 8 in this spot. Again, this isn't a big area. So that would require, by the bylaw, excuse me, at least 2 spaces. The barber shop, he is currently across the street, so that's what that addition of the 21 by 21 feet would be a 4-seat barber shop, another sheer genius. And when we look at barber shops, we look at a minimum of 3 customer spaces, and then 1 per employee per shift, which we would figure, although there's 4 seats, usually they're not always full, so another 3 for that, so a total of 6. That would give us 8 total spaces required. We're proposing 11, so we actually have a little bit of flexibility there, so we're adding, although a restaurant space says per seat, it has no indication for employees. So we felt, you know, if we get to 11, will at least allow for the 1 or 2 employee spaces for somebody that would be in the Juiced Cafe. So the entire property would be renovated, the entire building would be renovated, add on the addition, and but we would need that requirement of the variance being granted for that 5-foot side yard setback. I think we in general meet the off-street parking requirements. Lot coverage in the BL, I don't think there is one.
There isn't.
So now that we're getting that specific, I don't think we need that issue. And actually, at the end of the day, with the increased landscaping that we would be providing, I think we're probably going to be less impervious than what we are now, well, right around that same area. But it does have to go through site plan review again. But technically, the only variance is that 5-foot side yard setback, which is the same 5 feet that was granted in 17.
Great. Members of the board, any questions? Are we concerned about hours of operation or? Okay.
It's a BL district.
No, I'm just wondering, you know, the barber shop, you got They're gonna be open and the juice bar's not, or the restaurant's not? Because there might be less intensity if the
Well,
restaurant is,
they kind of,
or they run together.
barber shops don't run as early, so like,
Correct.
juice, you guys do a pretty good breakfast, morning, so they don't, it's not the rush at the same time for
Well,
sure.
that's what I'm saying.
The
So I'm
barber shop
thinking
is
that
more of a consistent
If
Saturday,
we were
Sunday thing.
concerned about
Right.
the overflow, then maybe you'd have this offset, that's.
Uses are completely allowed in that
No, the
BM
use, I have
district.
no problems with
Yeah.
it. You have a regularly shaped lot. environment.
Also,
Okay.
as a great improvement, even though that we've got 11 spaces on our site, on Lincoln Avenue, you'll see that we'll be closing up a rather large existing curb cut now. So that would actually provide some additional parking on Lincoln as well.
Let's
So
see, let's
you
see,
won't be
let's see if
able
the
to sneak
planner
out
has
on the
some,
side.
some,
Oh, I'm sure he does.
I'm sure he does. What should we consider, Bill?
Actually, I wanted to thank Mr. Aguirre after we had our conversation about the first original plan. I'm much appreciative stipulating a lot of different things. This is far better. I don't have any significant objections other than I would recommend to explicitly require site plan review. And we will look at, obviously, some of the things that are shown on this plan. The dumpster, which wasn't shown on any other plans, people usually forget those, to be screened from public view. Closing down and narrowing the curb cuts to make them closer to conforming, those sorts of things. If you look at the aerial, doing a parking lot that is more organized, striped for spaces versus you look at the aerial now and it's just a hodgepodge. So this would be a vast improvement over what's there now.
Okay.
Site plan review is the only thing I would recommend.
Okay. Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Members of the board, any questions? Any motion to grant, motion to deny?
Move approval
Motion.
condition upon
Site
site
plan.
plan review and that striping be performed in the parked area or the paved area.
Site plan review, striping of the parking lot. That's it? Okay? Jim Corkins' motion to grant with those conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
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 Second. Carolyn Morissette. Okay, all those in favor, any discussion on the motion? Okay, so we have Dupere, Morissette, Facade, Corkins, and Frank. So that petition is granted with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Agenda item number 8 is an item that I cannot listen to, and I think Carolyn Morissette is leaving. So after John Frank is going to do it, the same 4 members that listen.
Can you stay just to watch over the procedural part of it?
So let me
That may
make,
have benefited us.
let me make this statement about agenda item number 8. I had spoken prior to the meeting with John Frank, who's going to chair the meeting. Understands special permit under section 9 of 40A, understands the requirement that it's a special permit. It's allowed, that is a special permit under the commercial mill district, that under 40A section 14, the board has the authority to act, to review what they had already done. But the board, the same 4 members have to make that decision.
First.
So that's it, and it's not a bifurcated hearing. It's, if you can't get by the first part of it, then it's over.
The first part of, first they have to allow it to
Yeah.
first they make that vote.
They make the determination.
Of whether or not they would
Correct.
reconsider.
You have to grant the reconsideration if you're
First.
going to go forward. If they
Right.
say
I don't
no.
wanna, mix up bifurcated.
No, it's
again
not
like the last
bifurcated,
time.
no. So it was just like the motion to withdraw. So step 1 is you have the motion for reconsideration.
Yep.
They have to decide that, yes, you can reconsider. If they say no, it's all over, go home.
Okay.
If they say yes, then you go forward and do what you're going to do.
Great. And actually, you know what? I forgot I brought this.
I can't stay if you do.
I brought it to show with me. I'll give you a pretty picture of it.
Okay, so agenda item number 8 is Rodman Street LLC, 688 Rodman Street. St. Lawrence Street, Lot I-21-1. Request to reconsider the special permit decision from March 21st, 2019, per MGL 40A, Section 14, and proposing a modification to reduce the proposed density and construct 4 duplexes for the total of 8 units, with garages and parking to each unit, and to demolish the existing commercial structure, lot size 21-252. There's been a motion filed by SciTech to bring this back in front of us to reconsider what was done at the last hearing, due to the fact that there was a bifurcated hearing, and he's stating that because it was a special permit, it did not need to be. We have the same 4 members here that voted on it. We first have to act on whether or not we are going to either approve the motion or deny the motion and go forward. If we do approve the motion, then there's a new proposal that's coming forward. If not, it's over. So do we have a motion to go forward?
Or reconsideration.
Reconsideration. This is no motion to, no, we have to vote on his motion.
What are we voting on now?
You want me to read the letter?
We voted last,
Right.
we voted last to deny the motion. He's asking that we bring it forward because we did not.
Because it was procedural error.
Procedural error as far as doing a bifurcated hearing, where we should have only done a single hearing. We did a bifurcated hearing.
Right.
So first, we have to go forward to determine whether or not we have.
Do you want me to read what my mindset was?
Yep.
Again, this was a letter dated March 27th to the board. Dear Chairman Assad, on behalf of my client Rodman Street LLC and pursuant to MGL 40A Section 14.0, I respectfully request that the City of Fall River Zoning Board of Appeals reopen the public hearing with regards to the above referenced petition. As you may know, Section 14.0 states that a Board of Appeals may, in conformity with the provisions of this chapter, make orders or decisions, reverse or affirm in whole or in part, or modify any order or decision, and to that end shall have all the powers of the officer from whom the appeal is taken, and may issue or direct the issuance of a permit. I request this action to take place due to what we feel was an improper vote taken at the March 21st hearing. Under Section 8636, Table of Uses of the City of Fall River zoning bylaw, multifamily uses are allowed by special permit within the CMD Commercial Mill District. At the conclusion of the public hearing, a motion was made in the positive with respect to the first part of a bifurcated hearing. This motion was seconded, and a vote of 2-2 did not carry, and the project was denied. It was raised during the hearing, and still our assertion, that this petition should not have been moved as a bifurcated hearing, in parentheses, as is required with change in non-conforming use special permits, which is what we're used to dealing with. It is our opinion that it should have been moved under Division 4, special permits, and a simple vote taken. In addition, after digesting comments raised by board members, city planner, and abutters, we have decided to modify the proposal to reduce the overall number of units from 11 to 8, adding garage spaces to each unit and constructing the units in groups of 2. This will drastically reduce the overall building footprint and pavement requirements while increasing the building setbacks to abutters and landscaping areas. It is our hope that with the voting procedure being made clear and the submittal of a revised plan, the board will reverse its previous decision and grant the requested special permit. Attached, please find revised plans and a fee in the amount of $350 as required by the board's fee schedule to cover the costs associated with re-advertisement and a notification to abutters. I would like to thank you for your time and attention regarding this matter and look forward to discussing it with you on April 18th. That's all. So what we're saying is that normally when we say, okay, this is a non-conforming use, we want to change it to a different non-conforming use, that gets done under a special permit. And that process is a bifurcated hearing where you first have to say, this new use is no more detrimental than the old use. That's the first part. And then the second vote is whether or not you want to grant the special permit. This isn't that kind of a special permit. When we look at the table of uses, this type of development is just allowed in the district by right through a special permit. It doesn't need a variance, it doesn't need a bifurcated hearing. You don't have to determine if it's more or less detrimental than the existing use, previous use, or use 10 years from now. It's just a use that's allowed that you by special permit can allow. So rather than just come back in with a project that we knew the planner had concerns with, and at the meeting actually asked us, could you reduce the density? Our butters had some concerns regarding some setbacks from their properties. I spoke with the owner and I said, listen, can we do anything with shrinking this down rather than having a stretch of 6 units and a stretch of 5 units? I said, why don't you try breaking them up? These would be almost identical units to what we're doing over at St. Peter and Paul, but we don't have the topographic relief where we could have garages under, but similar style development. So what we proposed is, again, in groups of 2, 4 buildings, 2 units in each, a garage space and then a parking space in front. That's allowed us to pull all of the buildings away from the easterly abutter, give us some more green space.
Before we even get there, we have to determine whether or not we're
That's
gonna
correct.
go forward. So, first, we have to have a vote on if we are gonna reconsider our decision from the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, as the criteria for the decision that was rejected on last time differs, and the criteria for approval, I move that we reopen the discussion and give consideration to the proposal.
So motion by Mr. Hawkins to reopen the hearing.
Second.
Seconded. Okay, that's approved. Now, we move forward.
You need to vote on it.
I'm sorry, all
And
those in
it's gotta be-
favor?
And it's gonna be 4-0.
All those in favor, right. And that was the next thing I was gonna bring up. You have to carry all 4 members in
That's
order for
correct.
this to go forward.
Understood.
Okay, now,
Now,
we're reopening. Now you can
yes.
make your presentation on your
Great.
new plan.
So again, similarly as the petition that was just granted to the St. Peter and Paul, although different relief that we're seeking, the proposal before you is a special permit request, an allowable use in a commercial mill district. We meet all the density requirements, we met it for up to, even for the 11 units that we were trying to do before. But at the previous petition, we had concerns from the planner, the board members, some of the neighbors, regarding the project, and could we, rather than build a big parking lot with 2 long stretches of apartment units, could we break that up? So we were able to do that in this townhouse-style building. We've been able to create a garage space 2 stories above that, parking spot out in front of each, so each unit would still have the 2 parking spaces like we did before. We've shown you a trash receptacle location, which is a great distance away from the abutting property. It would be a screened dumpster area. This site currently now, as you probably remember, is where Global Glass is. And the entire site now is basically impervious, almost entirely impervious. So a proposal like this, where we're getting, everything that you see shaded in green, that's now pervious surface that will allow water back into the ground. And even 2 hearings ago, that's the direction that the city really wants to move in, is creating this green space and not letting just stormwater just run off of everything onto the streets, picking up pollutants. So this would promote infiltration of stormwater runoff as well. Again, reducing the overall density from 11 to 8 is a big step, but also breaking them up into separate pods. It gives the look of, and if you see the size of the structures in comparison to the abutting properties, you're now looking at buildings that are of size and scale in a similar nature of what the surrounding is. So now you don't have a 100-foot long building, we have pods of 30 by 60-foot buildings that are similar to what's around you. So I think it would fit in the neighborhood far better than what the previous petition did. The increased green space, increased landscaping, of course, site plan review would be a requirement. So handling stormwater, landscaping, some lighting, those types of issues. Access is still off of Rodman only, so we would not be impeding any traffic that would be needed on, in the Lawrence Street area, so that if the city had any concerns for, if they ever do anything with the incinerator, we would not be adding any traffic to that Lawrence Street area, no curb cuts, no driveways to that location as well. So it's pretty straightforward. We hope that the board looks at it as a drastic improvement from the previous plan, and we see fit to approve it.
I don't see, where is your access?
Right in front.
Oh, I thought you said it was only
Only
Only on
from
Rodman,
Rodman,
not
not
on
from
Lawrence.
Lawrence. 'Cause
I-
this-
I thought you
this-
said
this
it
would
the
bring
other
it
way
down to the
around.
incinerator. Maybe I did, but I didn't think I did.
Yeah, okay. I'm just curious, on this proposal last time, we had a large number of opposition, and I want to, are the people aware of this, that?
It was
that this is-
re-advertised.
It was re-advertised to the,
And
to the
the
executive.
butters were notified, because I.
Well, there might be
I
butters
wanna
here.
be-
There might
Yeah,
be
there
butters
might be a
here.
few, but.
They might be happy with what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think what ended up happening was, when we deal with special permits in a commercial mill district, and this is just conversationally, not even just to this specific project, because it happens in a bunch of area. The city used to have a bunch of land that was zoned industrial. They did away with that and they broke it up into commercial mill district and a couple of different things. So there were a number of homes that were built over the years through the granting of variances in industrial areas. What that's done now is anytime somebody wants to go in and do something industrial, we now have homeowners that are in there with single-family homes. That was by a variance. So they took industrial land, granted a variance, built single-family homes, and now that they're.
That's how all of those homes were
That's how
created.
everything around us. So now, when they get there, they don't want any commercial use, even though they're in a commercial district. Now, when you read through what's allowed in a commercial mill district, and we discussed this a little bit at the meeting, but maybe not enough, I don't think that the abutters understood what could potentially happen, either in that building the way that it sits, or what could take place on it if we knocked it down and did by right. Don't even have to come to this board. Somebody could just move in there, as long as it's an allowed use in a commercial mill district,
make a mess of
and could be in there. So, it might have been a combination of the two, of me being made aware of that, and then maybe the revised plan, and maybe that's why they're all not here, I don't know.
I'd have to say that it's probably the plan too.
This looks a lot better.
Before it was like.
Well,
just
it
row
does, but
houses,
it's,
they weren't like-
but what happens is, and again, you're not developers, I'm not a developer either. When you purchase a piece of land, and, you know, everybody purchases land to make money. So you wanna put as many units in as you can reasonably and meet the requirements. And normally, if you can meet requirements, you can get a permit. Well, that didn't happen in this case, even though we met most of the requirements. So there is a point where it's either feasible or unfeasible. So we're at the point now where this is,
Feasible.
it's about the end of it. So, I mean, if you can't do this, it'll probably just be used for another commercial use.
Did you say they're gonna be 3 stories, Tom?
Well, no, there's the garage, a first floor, and then a second floor. So the garage first floor is one level, and then a second floor above it, yeah.
So they're 2-story townhouse-style units?
Like a normal,
Townhouse.
basically it looks like, because we put, you know, the garages in the middle, basically if you looked at a colonial house, because it's only a 1-stall garage, a normal sized colonial house with one garage in the center, a 2-stall garage, almost look identical in size and scale. But now they're cutting half because they're apartments, they're not single-family homes. So rather than having a 3,000 square foot home, you've got 2 1,500 square foot apartments.
Beats looking at that building.
Yeah, well, that's, again, that's the biggest thing here, is that hopefully something gets done on that corner.
That's ugly, yeah.
Because all these people have bought into a concept,
Right.
and, you know, that building still stands.
It's a nice show.
Members of the board, any more questions? No? Is anyone here in favor of the petition? Have your name, please, and for the
Good
record.
afternoon, zoning board. My name is Salem Alzabek. I'm actually the property manager and the owner son of the property here. We bought the property about 2 years ago, and I've spent the better part of those 2 years deciding on a use for this property. After looking at the property and how much construction costs would be, I'd be at nearly $750,000 to get the property even remotely usable for any type of usage there. Obviously, I've called Dan probably 1,001 times since the start of this process to try to find a viable use for the property here. Last time we were denied, you know, we had some green space issues. We had a lot of issues there with congestion, which were obviously valid, you know, reasons. We came back with this design here after speaking with the planning board and speaking with a lot of other people here, and we increased a lot of the green space. Actually had a better area for the trash. We're not even on Lewiston Street, so there's no issue at all with you know, the incinerator they wanna propose to redo there. And honestly, y'all said it there, the Global Glass building is an eyesore. We all know that it's been an eyesore for probably the better half of 20 years. Just due to the cost of the rehabbing the current building there is not financially feasible in any way, shape, or form. This project here, long-term, will be a lot better, you know, it's better looking, more green space, you know, pervious land, better than the impervious land. And it just gets the eyesore of a building that has now become an insurance liability on myself. So I'm hoping you guys consider all these options and see that we're trying to work with the city as best as possible, work with a plan that's financially feasible, and understand that we're here for special permit, not by variance, so we're just trying to, you know, make the building make sense financially here. So I think we'll, special permit. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in favor?
Helen Regal, 41 Foster Street. I think that plan is better than it was before. Because it's better than having a big one. I live across the street, I want to look out my window and see this big bland building. That, to me, is better for the neighborhood. I mean, you have houses around there already. Just expand it. And going in by Rodman Street is better than going on a side street. I come down that street every day because I live on Lawrence Street. That's much better. You know, if you want to see a house, you're not going to see this big bland building which makes the neighborhood like a dump. So I think this is the best go.
And it's in tough shape too. The roof's ready to come down.
Anyone else? Is there anyone here opposed?
Just,
Are you in favor or opposed?
just have like a
Question? Okay, can you give your name, please?
The Diogo Freitas, 15 Olsen Street. I agree this looks better, the plants and more green stuff like they say, but only thing is, before I built my house 2 years ago, we were trying to do like a duplex or something like that. And the contractor right away said they don't do no more those things in the city. I don't know if it was just to fool me or just to sell as a single house, probably was, but hey, what is what it is, you know what I mean? If it's to look better, I agree if it's to sell as real estate, sell by unit, like where everybody has to buy a house, yeah, hey, okay, but it's, my concern last time was so many units, and right away, I can see it's like a rental place. Somebody's gonna make a profit out of a rental. If it's to sell as a real estate houses, units, people live over there, yeah.
So you're in favor now?
Favor, yeah. As a real, like, sell it by unit, sell it,
Right.
like, if I wanna buy a house, that's my house over there. If it's like something to lease, whatever it is, it's, I have to think about it, you know what I mean?
Are they gonna be rentals?
I'm not sure, I mean, they may end up being condominiums, or they may end up being rentals, it depends upon the market and what.
But if they're
We don't have
rentals-
hard.
And we don't, we can't regulate use.
But this will be,
It's more of a high-end rental, too.
and what, it's in a rental area that's a managed building, it's not just a it's not just a landlord and a tenant.
Right, so you're not gonna have
Low-end
people,
rentals,
right,
yes.
not gonna be.
Is there anyone else here opposed in the back? Can you give your name, please?
My name is Francisco Viveros. I live in Lawrence 16, so I am the
Direct
nearest
to
neighbor.
butter. Yeah.
And I was almost voting in favor because from 11 they came to 8, and I was waiting maybe around 6, like the Snell Street, because you, Mr. Kevin, sorry, was almost fighting for 6 feet to grant 6 residentials in 20,000, 37 in Snell. Now with 21,000, they wanted to do 8. But now, after looking for the plans, and thank you to give you the plan, I can see in my street, Lawrence Street, I am going to be the unique house in the front of the street. So, all the new houses is going to be back to the street. The back of the houses is going to be to the street. This is not make sense. That kind of townhouses, I agree, can be very pretty, but not exactly in that corner. That corner is too small to do that, first thing. Another thing, in that block, that kind, it does not make sense. Thank you.
I just want to say that the entire property, the perimeter will be fenced off on Lewiston Street, the property that is abutting his property, as well as the property that is abutting the other side. So it'll be fenced off on all three sides, so there is no
So the plan is a fence barricade along,
the entire property line.
You
the
can
side
see
of
it
the lot.
on
Privacy,
on the
6
plan,
foot
the
privacy.
Privacy,
proposed
6 foot
6-foot
privacy.
stockade fence, and we discussed that hasn't changed.
I think this is not the problem. The problem is, looking, if you go to on that street, you are going to see the back of the houses, and the unique house with the front of the street is going to be mine. This is not make sense.
Can I?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I did want to comment. One of the comments from the engineering department was regarding the potential increased access. They oppose access. The city engineering department opposes access for units. Like you're saying flip the units and have driveways off of Lawrence Street and have the front. That's
No, I am telling, the unique thing, the unique buildings, can, making sense here, it's single houses. Period.
so.
One block with 4 streets, and it's all the block. The houses, it's very similar, all single houses. Why is going to do that in that corner? I agree, of course, it's better than that building from the global glass, I agree. I agree with that, taking that block, maybe the owner of that block finally is going to quit to put jump cars there, because now we have cars parked there with flat tires since months ago. 1 year ago when I bought my house, I had a big fight with the city. I called to all the boards, all departments to take one big truck from Global Glass full of trash. Nobody did nothing, nobody can do nothing. Only after a call to the mayor, in 7 days, that truck disappeared from that. And that's the truth on that street. We have the city workers, as you know, crossing that street every day, and nobody sees nothing. They work only for the checks. We have potholes. We have that truck there. Was a surprise when I go to the city, to my neighbors, the workers there, and I talk with about that truck. Was a surprise. The city workers just work for the check. They don't care about the city. I live here, and you work for the city.
Well, that's
you fight.
That's why we're here listening, sir, and that's why we appreciate you coming in to give your opinion. You live in this neighborhood, and you're helping us make a decision.
You are the main workers for that. Looking to the city, looking to a better city.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else, Dan?
Yeah, I can respond. Again, as I stated before, I can't say how important it is to understand that these single-family homes were granted a variance to be in a commercial mill district. We're not asking for a variance. Single-family homes can't get built here by special permit. They need a variance, they need a hardship. So all these homes decided to be built and be bought in what's a commercial mill district, knowing what can happen in a commercial mill district. This is about as close as you can get to a single-family use, this type of townhouse-style development in appearance and everything else, and size and scale, as building a single-family home. But it's not a variance, it's a special permit, so that's something different. With regards to what they may see on Lawrence, if the board would like us to extend that fence around the side of Lawrence so that they're not looking at the backs of the homes, we're not opposed to that. It's just not something that was discussed the last time. I think what he has a concern is as he's driving down Lawrence, he's looking at the back of houses, not the front of houses. So if you want us to extend the fence that we're putting around, so we would have fence on all 3 sides except for Rodman Street, we're not opposed to
I
that.
thought that's what he said. There was 3 sides.
Yeah, that was the original plan. I do, I'm not a different.
No,
That is the plan.
It's shown on the plan, a fence on everything but the 2 street sides.
Oh,
But
okay.
we can if it can be a condition to extend that across Lawrence, if you wanted to close that off for multiple purposes, so that he doesn't have to see the backyard of a house. It's better than looking at the backside of, or the front side of Global Glass or any other use that can be there. But then it will also keep a barrier between any potential traffic on Lawrence for the incinerator or the improvements to that location.
All right, and I understand, and I think that the board understands, I know some of us that were here before, we were here on the original project when it was approved. And the intent was that these were all gonna be single-family homes along that area, and that's what
Okay.
a lot of the owners bought for, and I know that's why
Yep.
we have people here today, and that people are concerned about it.
Mhm.
But we also know that that building is, got some issues, it needs to be cleaned up, and
Yep.
I think looking at something like this will definitely improve that area,
Yep.
but it's not only my decision, so.
Just the cost of
thank you.
demolition.
I got quoted demolition, about $150,000 just in cleaning up the property to get it built.
Right, okay, now, members of the board, our testimony is closed. We're gonna take anyone have a motion to grant with any conditions?
I move granting the application subject to site plan review.
Did you want fencing along Lawrence Street?
Isn't that
It's-
site plan review going to cover that?
I think
Well, no,
we
he
make
can't
it- we can
force
make
us
it a
to.
condition.
You can force us
Yeah,
to.
we can make it a condition, but it's
That's
on
not a
two sides
problem.
already. If we do add that, to go along Lawrence.
They want to amend it to include that, that's fine.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else on the motion? The off-street parking is already considered as part of it. Site plan review will take care of all that. Any other, building needs to be raised, obviously.
Yep, and the building needs to be
Oh, yeah.
demolished prior to building permit.
Prior to any construction.
That's obvious.
But they need to be
But
stated.
they-
It needs to be stated.
They thought they had that before.
Yeah.
We need a second.
Anything else?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Thank you all very much.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much, everyone.
You wanna wait till Monday to go over all the stuff?
I'm not here. We're closing.
One day off. Yeah, so next week's fine.
Yeah, I helped.
It was, thank you very much for coming out. Like I say, it's nice to see you when you come out in favor of things too.
John, you can ask for any public input.
Yes.
You can go down the
Finish off the agenda.
citizens input number
You can
9.
take, I'll sit.
I didn't see you come back.
Oh, Chairman's
No, I
back.
didn't
Yeah,
hear that there
Chairman's
was a
back.
vote, but I heard yipping and yapping, so I said maybe there
Yep.
was something. Yeah, I'll walk around.
Citizen input time.
Is there any citizen? Ellen?
Ellen wants to talk.
I move waiving of the reading of the minutes and
All right.
approval of the minutes.
Approval of the March 21st, 2019 minutes. Jim
Yeah,
Corkins,
waiving the-
waiving the reading. Oh, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Okay. There's no other business. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved, adjourned.
Motion to adjourn, second by David Sabo. All those in favor? Floor of the zoning board of appeals for April 18, 2019 is hereby closed. Thank you.